Hey everybody, welcome back to Mel's Board Game Room, and I am doing a recap of MelCon, which is a board game convention that I host around my birthday. So it was 3 days of board gaming that I hosted at the local Legion here in Acme, Alberta. So it was a great weekend. I ended up playing 30 games or 30 times over the 3 days, and I've been doing a recap. So if you haven't seen them yet, be sure to catch day 1 and day 2. And today I'm actually going to talk about the games that we played on the final day of MelCon. But before I get into that, I just want to mention that I have a sponsor, which is Games and Couples, which is part of Oshrat Online Counseling. And what's really cool is Game and Couple concentrate on couple counseling, and they utilize a lot of board games as a tool for their counseling, because they've discovered that to put the Goffman principle into practice, that was very prominent when playing board games, especially cooperative games. So I think what they do is amazing, and I'm glad to be a part of that. So as I mentioned, we're going to be doing a recap of day 3. And I think this was the day that I played the most games. So the first game we played, and before, this was just a selfie I took at the Legion because it was my birthday, and actually Carla's birthday as well. There was balloons and decorations and birthday cake. It was just amazing. So Carla ended up staying at my house that weekend as well. So before we went to the Legion, we played a few games every morning. And on that Sunday, the first game we played was Lotus. Now, Lotus is, first of all, a beautiful game. The table presence is just beautiful, but it's also quite a strategic area control game. So it's a little cutthroat in a way as well, which you don't think it would be for how beautiful the game is. But let me show you. So you're creating flowers, and every card you put down is going to be a petal of that particular flower. So depending on the flower you add to, how many petals it's going to have. And the cards are super cool. So it shows like a little outline what angle the next card would need to go to complete the flower. And each petal you put down will have your symbol on it if it comes from your own deck. And it gives you that much kind of control over that particular flower. So if I place one that has one symbol, it gives me one control. But if I've played 2 other petals that also had one symbol, then I have a total control of 3. And if it's a 5 flower petal, then if I have 3 out of 2 control, then I would gain the benefit once that flower is completed. But you can also add these little wooden tokens that kind of represents the bug. I think there's like a little worm and a ladybug. No, firefly and a butterfly and another one that I can't remember. Maybe it is a ladybug. But you can add that to help increase your influence on the flower as well. Now, whoever completes the flower gets all the petal cards, and those are all going to be worth 1 point. But whoever had the most influence will get a bonus, either extra points, or they would get a special ability that they can activate. Either you get more cards that you can hold in your hand, so you have a higher chance of having the petals you need, or you can bring out a new token, so that gives you a 2 influence if you get to place them onto, and I forget what the third ability is. That's gonna bug me. Oh, you can add more petals at one time than the regular game. But this game is so fun. It's so beautiful. I absolutely love it. And I think Carla quite enjoyed it as well. Then we also played that morning One Key. And I'm so excited because this has been on my shelf of shame for a long time. And you can play it with an app or you could play it without. And it's just a really interesting one. So you start with a bunch of different icon. And like, it's kind of like wooden tiles. Well, not wooden. What am I saying? Wooden cardboard tiles that have different image depicted on it. And you're going to select one of them to be your goal tile. So you're trying to get the other players to eliminate all but this one. And then you can add extra tiles and add them with like this has like a strong link to the one I want you to guess, or this doesn't have anything to do with the one I want you to guess, or is this like it's neutral? And based on the links, the clues that you give, the first round you eliminate like 3 tiles. Okay, well, I think it's like strong link is this, not a lot to do with this, so let's pull these out. And you kind of try to eliminate and end up with the final round, the final one on the final round. Now, both times, because we played it twice, both times we ended up eliminating the wrong one. Like just one before the final round. So we didn't win, but we got pretty close. And I just thought the whole concept was kind of interesting. Now, it was just the 2 of us playing, so I would be interested in seeing how it works in a higher player count. Would be interesting. But I quite enjoyed it. It was kind of a neat Dixit-like code name, but with image type of game. So it was a lot of fun. Then we went to the Legion and we played, the first game was Vikings Gone Wild, the board game. So this is a deck building game that's Viking theme. The artwork is just neat and adorable. Components are super cool as well. And you're adding different things into your deck so that you can generate resources, which is gold and was not beer, it's ale. And from that, you can kind of acquire new cards to add to your deck, but you can also have attack cards so you can attack the other players. We ended up playing the team variant, which we hadn't played before. So it was me and Carla against Cherry and Kayla. And we were like in the lead. We were doing good. There's special missions you can accomplish as well. So if you do certain things on your turn that matches your mission card, then you get that many points as well. And you scored the points on the bottom. And we're like in the lead, but then they caught up like a point or 2 away, and we managed to barely win. But it was really neat. It's one that's just kind of a neat, fun themed Viking game that's satisfying to play. And it was the first time we played it as a team with the team variant, so that was interesting. And then the next game I played after that was Call to Adventure. So I was so excited to play this one. This is a game that I hummed and hawed about buying for a long time. I would pick it up and I was like, oh, I think I want this game. But it kept saying, like, not role-playing, but like story driven, and it kind of sounded like it had a strong RPG element to it, which it's not a genre or the type of game that I've really kind of geared a lot towards. And in my defense, like I haven't really played any RPGs, so I was like, I don't know, what do I want to? But it sounded like a cool game, but I was like, oh, but is it RPG? And then the RPG is so campaign based, and I was just not sure. I was at Car Treat. That was Carla's convention she had in the spring, and somebody was selling it there. And I opened the box, and the components were so amazing, and I was sold with it. And we ended up playing it, me and Michael, because he had played it before, and I asked if he would teach it to me. So this is finally off my shelf of shame, and I am so pleased and impressed with this game. So you start with level 1 cards, and you have your character cards, and your character cards have different icons kind of associate with it, which gives you access to different runes that you can roll. But you roll these runes, but they're not dice. They're 2-sided tiles, like nice chunky tiles. They're not wooden. They're like whatever dominoes are made of. But you have these cool tiles that you will roll, and it's either on the success side or not. And you can add these dark runes that will increase your odds of having success, but they also give you some like bad vibe things that would kind of decrease you on your goodness to badness level, I guess. So but it was so interesting because depending on what you have access to in the runes, it will kind of influence which card you want to try to accomplish. And each card has like 2 versions that you can work on, the top and the bottom of the card. And you would tuck it whether on the top or the bottom, depending on what you accomplish. Now, if you try and you fail, that card goes away, then that's not an option anymore. But each card definitely has also like a story element to it. So it kind of builds a story as you play. Once you've tucked 3 cards of level 1, you then have access to level 2 cards. And once you've done that with the level 2 cards, you now have access to the level 3 cards. And depending on how it plays, you might get access to those at different time as well. And once somebody has got 3 of each one, and then like depending on what the cards you get and tucked in, you get access to new runes as well. So you have more things you can roll. But depending on which you're trying to accomplish, it'll indicate, okay, well, you can roll these runes. So even though you have all these other runes, you can't bring them into this element of the story because that's for these different runes. So you want to try to build up on the different type of runes so you can do different tasks. And then at the end, once you've completed the story, you can then kind of go and tell the story of what happened to your character. And then me and Michael did that, just kind of described the story of what we had built. But that's as much of an RPG element that it builds up to. You could, I guess, build that up if you really wanted to. We just kind of did a recap of what we had accomplished, and it was interesting, but it wasn't a strong RPG game that made this like you have to be an RPG player to play this one. So I quite enjoyed it. You can take or leave the story depending on how you feel about it. But the game was so cool. The components were amazing, and I really enjoyed this one. Actually, Carla ended up purchasing this game after MelCon as well, and she's played it quite a few times. I think she's playing it solo. So, you know, it's a hit with her as well. Then we played Marrying Mr. Darcy. We had planned on playing this all weekend long. There was a bunch of girls there. And actually, Michael had pointed out, it's not often you go to a board game convention and there's more girls than guys attending. And this particular event definitely was. There was a lot more girls attending, which is great to see some more girls in the gaming community and into the hobby. And this is a type of game that's just perfect for this. Now, I have played this one with my husband and friends and her husband, and it's hilarious to play with them as well. So don't think that this is a girls' game, but this is a game based on Pride and Prejudice, which is a movie that I have watched many times. Now, out of the girls playing, some had seen it, some had not seen it, and I think we all enjoyed the game anyway, so you don't have to have watched Pride and Prejudice to enjoy this game, but it doesn't hurt because you can see all the relations and how it's like ties into the theme. It's very neat to play the game when you are familiar with the story. And then a few of us after the event went home and ended up watching Pride and Prejudice. Sherry and Carla did. And they said after we played this, we went home and watched it. It was like so much better. And then it's just a neat how this game kind of ties into the theme. But in this game, each player plays as one of the character from the story. We're all ladies trying to accumulate different skills and wit and beauty and different things like this that will attract our beau so we can get proposal, because it's all about trying to get married so you don't become an old maid. And at the end of the first round, or like the first part of the game, everything you've collected, you then go through the list of people that would propose to you. And certain match are better suited for you than others, but you go in descending order, right? So whoever is the least suitable for you is the first one to propose. And then you have to roll the dice to see if they propose or not. And then if they propose, you have to decide whether you accept the proposal or whether you deny the proposal, hoping to get a better offer with some of the other suitors you have lined up. Now, I think I ended up with 2 or 3 suitors. I rolled the dice and none of them proposed, and I ended up an old maid, and that was like a burden to my family. So that gives me a certain score. Now, depending on all the attributes I had acquired, that also gives me other points that goes towards my score. So you could be an old maid and still win, but I did not. It did not go well for me. It was funny because me and Cherry were the first one to go through the proposal, and neither one of us got proposed. We all rolled that they denied us. So, but it was hilarious. It's a neat game. Mostly in this kind of setting with that group, it was just a lot of fun. Then we played Splito, and Splito was the first time I've played this game. It's the first time I've come across it as well. I had not heard of this before, but it was neat. So it's a card game, and it plays similar to between two cities or between two castles of Mac and Ludwig, where you will be building up cards on your left side and your right side with the players on your left and your right. And with these cards, you're going to be accumulating different numbers, different patterns, and you're also going to accumulate scoring cards that's going to have different requirements. So it's like this one will score so much if you have no threes in your numbers. So then you want to try to make sure you're not contributing threes to your pile. And at the end of the game, you're going to tally up. Let me show you what it looks like. So this was at the end of the game. Those were all the cards we had accumulated. And then we would match up all those scoring cards that we had collected, and we come up with the total for that hand, and then we come up with the total for the other hand, and your score is going to be the lowest of the two. So you're trying to make both of them as high as possible, so your lowest is still fairly high, and then whoever has the highest score in everybody wins the game. It was so neat. It was really interesting. And that was Splito. So I had not heard of it, but it was a cool one, mostly in a larger group, because I think we were 6 or 7 players playing this game. I'd have to verify on what the player count is, but we were up there in player counts, and it was a lot of fun. Then afterwards, we played a couple of rounds of Cheeky Monkey, and I got recently the card game No Mercy, and this one has a very strong resemblance to that, except component-wise, this one blows the No Mercy out of the water, right? Like, this is so cool. And what's so frustrating is I had the option of buying this game, and I didn't buy it because I had purchased so much. I was like, well, I can't buy them all, and I really wish I would have purchased it now. But with this one, you have a bag, and in the bag, there's a bunch of tokens in it, and you will be pulling out a token that'll have an animal on it, and you have the tiles in the middle that shows how many of them is going to be there and how much point they're going to be worth. And then you'll pull out one. It is like, okay, so it's I don't know, it's a snake. And then you pull another one, and the first two you can't bust on, but the third one you can. And if you pull another one and you already had it in your hand, you bust, everything goes back in the bag, and you don't keep anything in your pile this round. Now, if I don't bust, I can keep going. Now, if I pull a snake and somebody else has a snake on top of their pile, I can take the snake that they have showing, and I can actually take all the snakes that are showing that everybody has. So you kind of accumulate all of that, and then at any time I'd be like, okay, I'm done. And then you're going to stack the card, the tokens you've collected this round any way you want, because you'll probably want to separate the snakes or separate the same animals. So if somebody gets it, they don't take all of them. It kind of changes it up. So you put that on there. And some animals are more rare than others. So you may want to, but they might score higher. So you may want to tuck them lower, or you may want to tuck them to the front, depending on the strategy you want to do, because they're less likely to come up. But if they take them, they're worth more points. So, and then you put a stack, and then you have that in front of you, and the other player goes, and if they have anything that match what's on top of your stack, they can take that. So your stack is not safe the whole time you're playing until the game is over. Then everybody takes the total. Whoever has the majority of each animals get that middle coaster and gets those points, and it's whoever has the most points is the winner. It was so fun, so neat, super easy to play, and then we ended up playing a couple of times in a row. At that point, I think it was just me and Michael left, so we ended up playing a couple of games, just the two of us, and we played Star Trek Missions, which is basically Fantasy Realm reskinned with a Star Trek theme. So you have cards, and you're trying to trade cards and add cards into your hand so that the cards, the way they interact with each other, gives you the most points. Because you'll have one is like, okay, well, I get so many points if Spock is in your hand as well, or different things like that. And you'll have like Vulcans, like, okay, well, I score so many points for every other Vulcans you have in your hand. So you're trying to get more Vulcans and different things. And it is just creating a different combination, trying to get the best combination for the way that it's going to score, just like Fantasy Realm, but Star Trek theme. So it was really neat and interesting. I played quickly. We had a good time. I think I lost by a lot. But it was a good time. And then we ended up playing DroPolter. And honestly, I think we played this earlier in the day, but I recorded it later. Because I'm not sure if Michael played this with me, but we played with other, unless it was me, Michael played it. I've played DroPolter a few times throughout the weekend, so and every time it went over really well. So with this one, you have 5 items in your hand. They all have different shape, different things. And then you flip a card over that'll show which item you need to drop from your hand. You can't use the other hand, you just use the one. You can open it and look, but you can't drop anything else. So in this case, we have the blue key. So you want to drop just the blue key, keep everything else in your hand. First person to do that then reaches for the ghost, and they win that round. If you win the round, you add a bell to your hand. The winner is going to be whoever has 5 bells first. But if you ever drop a bell, that bell's gone. You don't get to keep it. So you want to be careful. We've had some time we'll play where everybody, like somebody got 4 bells, ended up dropping 3 of them. So had to rebuild their collection of bells. So this will happen. This was a game that sounded so silly to me. And I was like, okay, but I don't think I want this. But we ended up buying it and playing it anyways because it was at my house. And then my spouse was like, well, let's play this one. So I was like, all right, fine. I guess we'll buy it. And it sounds so silly, but it was so satisfying to play. And I have played this so many times since we've purchased it. And it's so neat. I really like it. And it just sounds like something that would be so silly, but it just works. And that was DroPolter. And then we played, this was the final game we played of MelCon, my final game completely, and that's Royals. Now, I have never played it before. It was already on my wish list on BGG, and I know it's really, really on my wish list. It was so good. It's an area control game, and it kind of had a bit of a Ticket to Ride element where you're collecting these different cards that have different shields, and each shield will represent a different country on the map. And when you have enough shields, you can discard them to place one of your tokens on the city that has that much shield showing. Now, some cities have like 2 values, one that's higher, one that's lower, and then each location also has like a royal. It could be the king, it could be the queen, it could be the cardinal, it could be the duke. You know, you have all these different characters that is showing on there. And when you put a token, because you have influence over that royal in that city, you also take one of your token and you place it on the character at the top of the board. That's also going to score you point as well. And each location is worth so many influence. And then at the end of each round, and I think it kind of randomly comes up on the deck, there'll be 3 scoring round. And then when that comes up is whoever has the most influence in the different countries gets to score that country, and you would get that token. Now, first time you go and take control of a city, you also get some points for doing that. So you want to try to get the most control, ideally get controlled first, and then when the scoring, you're trying to have the most control over the different cities, or different countries. Some countries score more than others. It was so neat. Now, we played it 2 players and it was great. I think at a higher player count, it would be really interesting as well and kind of be a little bit more cutthroat, because it was kind of like I had control of France and whatever that is, Russia. And he had control of England and was kind of building up on the other things like Spain and stuff. So Spain was kind of, it was kind of go back and forth a little bit more. But then you can also take control of a city where somebody already is and bump them out. And then you're trying to get yourself back in afterwards. It's neat. So fun. I absolutely love this game. I really need a copy of it, but I haven't come across it. I think it's a little bit older as well. So I'm keeping an eye open on the secondhand market and hope that one day I can take this home and have my own copy. I so loved it. It was so good. And that was it for the games played at MelCon. So be sure to follow me on Facebook. My Facebook page is Mel's Board Game Room. I'm also on Instagram as Mel's_boardgame_room. I also have a podcast that I do with my friend Carla called The Board Game Specialist. We did do a top 9 game that we played during MelCon, so be sure to check that one out. And my YouTube channel is Mel's Board Game Room. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye, everybody.